It's the final percent. The final percent.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Final Percent podcast. And as a few of them have happened, we're in Truck Studios with the Johnny King.
What's up?
And what's up, man?
What's up?
And I don't know if you know this, but we've done podcasts, Jeep casts, truck casts with my wife, and Johnny, I was just on his podcast, and we went to his meeting of men, and now I got to do the amazing, incredible thing called capture a wild Johnny King so that I can get him on my podcast. After I was on his, you know, he's a little bit like that snitch from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, if you really, really want to put it in very clear terms, he's a little bit like nailing Jell-O to the ceiling. Trying to get on his podcast. So this is how incredible I feel having the wonderful Johnny King. He has the Becoming Kings podcast, and if you didn't check me guesting on his podcast, please go over, subscribe to the Becoming Kings podcast.
Yeah. Check
out our episode first and foremost, and then I want you to go all the way back to episode number 1 and catch up, because you've got some catching up to do. It needs to happen. Immerse yourself. Go the final percent on becoming a king. But Johnny, tell me what gave you the idea of equipping men better? Because it seems like you are really all about providing a structure for exchange for very particularly men, so that they can, you know, live at a different level than society, it seems like they want them to. So tell me about, how did the Becoming Kings podcast happen? How did the meeting of men happen? When did that lightning strike happen that said, you know what, I think there's a better way. I want to equip men at a better level?
Great question. And before I answer that, I just want to say thank you for inviting me into the backseat of your truck. To record. That's the first time I've ever done.
Giggled like that.
Oh man, no, but truly, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm excited to continue the friendship, and it's just an honor to be on the show in the back of your car.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Hey, and that's one of the things that, you know, I think is important for people. Do not wait for perfect to make progress. And, you know, yes, I do have some very nice studios at my disposal, but sometimes you just have to be ready to capture the moment. Yeah. And we had a fantastic guest at your meeting of men tonight. This is actually right after his event, which is always the last Monday
of every month.
I get to speak on the next one at August 30th.
Hell yeah.
I need you guys to get there, to be there, yes, to experience what is going down, because it's really, really good.
Meeting of Men. Meetingofmen.com.
Who did we see speak tonight?
Sterling Hawkins.
Okay, also Sterling Hawkins, you know, I really think that he has some new stuff to say. I very much enjoyed it. So, and I would not have had that conversation. I just got to go get pizza with these guys. How cool is that? That's how accessible this is. I got to go get pizza with the Johnny King and Sterling Hawkins.
You actually almost stole my pizza, bro.
I did. I tried to. I attempted, but
we had a moment where we were looking at each other and our friendship almost ended.
Yeah, immediately. It was like we were in prison. You know, don't touch more or look at my food.
But then again, that's great, because we realized we both like Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah, actually, we're like, we're cut from the same cloth.
What's up, man?
But I mean, that's the thing. I would have never had the experience of getting to know another, you know, fellow speaker if I didn't show up for the meeting of men. And that's the big thing. We talked on his podcast. You're one conversation away from changing your life.
Yeah.
But you have to be where the conversations are happening. So you have to show up. So I think that that's important, and I had a blast at this one. This is my second meeting of men. It will not be my last. I think it's incredibly important. So tell us, the origin story of what's going on, man.
Well, it's funny that you say, the whole concept around men not showing up. You rewind back to like the Me Too movement, right? And predominantly there was crickets from men, right? But I feel like the wound goes back to my experience with my dad. Again, he was doing the best he could with the tools that he had. He's such an evolved man now, having done a lot of personal development over the last 12 years. However, the wound was still inflicted when I was younger, because he wasn't actually there that much. He was a workaholic. He was running from his own demons, before he came out of the closet after my mom passed away. So that's what allowed me to have some empathy for my dad, but that wound of having an absent father, of him not actually showing up, he provided well, 100% in terms of finances, but even when he was home, he wasn't probably all that emotionally present. So that was kind of what started the ball rolling. Now I just feel blessed that we're in a time and age where, because of technology and because of all the opportunities we have, I actually have I and you and all of us as men, actually most of us have greater bandwidth to mentally take on some of these really, really deep, deeply inflicted wounds from our past male generations. That they didn't have if they're, let's say, coming over to America or going through the Great Depression or going through World War I or World War II, or like, we're just now getting to the point where I can save hours, each month by not going to the grocery store, because I can just have it delivered to my house. And instead I'm doing personal development, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or there's like little things like that, right? Where technology, I think, gives us the privilege, but also the responsibility as men to like face our shit. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, I just did. Shit. So does that make sense? I don't know if that totally answers your question without going all the way down into a long story, but I do feel like it was it was my shortcomings. I think the first thing was just a lot of repressed anger. I was so angry at my dad. So angry at my dad, and that coupled with having no real idea of what it means to be a man, showed up pretty massively in my first marriage. And so I neglected a lot of things that I now know better. But because of going through some serious pain of losing my mom and my dad coming out, even though that wasn't a big issue, it was then realizing, oh gosh, he's been hiding that a secret for 60 something years, and I had greater empathy for him. Going through my divorce, I actually learned to have empathy for myself, because I don't know what I'm doing. My dad didn't know what he's doing. His dad didn't know it. My great-great-grandfather didn't. There's just a lineage of men who are doing the best they can with what they have, and with the stresses of life that they're going through, no wonder they turn into alcoholics or drug addicts or wife beaters. It's not to give them an out, but I can empathize. But now it's it's our generation that we need to handle this shit. Otherwise, we just kick the can down the road to our children, our sons, our daughters. And to me, I can't live with myself to let that happen.
And I think that's just an important distinction, because if you think about it, we've been taught that we need to be on an island, and you're not allowed to cry, and you're not allowed to ask for directions. You can't read the instruction manual, because that's what it means to be a man. Men are not meant to be all-knowing. And I think that we, as men instead of as men coming together, can learn a lot from one another just by the knowledge of knowing. Instead of the Me Too movement, a man coming together and going, wait, you too? The You Too movement. Because I think recognizing that you too have gone through things that I'm going through, lets me know that I'm not alone, and it's the gateway to vulnerability so that I can ask questions or finally, explore myself a little bit. And I think that's why it's so, especially we talked a little bit about mental health. And, I think there's a play on that with you, just so you know. Because if you think about it, you have the meeting of men.
Yep. And
then I think you should have, meeting of men discussing mental health, but capitalize men. Because mental health is different than mental health. And I think men thinking they need to be something that they don't actually need to be, or having all of these distinctions pressed upon them, and you giving this, because guys, we all know that a podcast, an event, a conference is just a structure of exchange of energy and ideas, and that's what Johnny has provided. He never knows what the meeting's going to bring. Nope. Some good, some bad.
Yep.
But he just wants to provide the opportunity, because remember, you're one conversation away from changing your entire life. So, with that being said, with equipping men, how are you seeing COVID affecting or infecting the male/masculine psyche?
Well, yeah, I could talk about a lot of the conversations I've had with men. I can just speak even personally from my own story. The first couple of months, let's say the first 3 months of COVID, I actually was enjoying myself from the standpoint of like, like
you had
peace.
some you time.
I had a long runway. I had me time. I didn't have to go out to get my hair cut. I just shaved my hair off. I didn't have dentist appointments or coffees. I could just be like, I can focus. Yeah. I had just started my own podcast 2 weeks before COVID, which actually became very therapeutic, just to be able to talk, to no one essentially. Yeah. Yeah. But then I also started writing a book. Because I wanted to get out, like, what is this, the meeting of men? Like, men would show up to these meetings, because I started in 2019 after working with women for 8 years, and just felt called upon my heart to work with men. Yeah. And so those conversations and things would often come to like, okay, I love this meeting of men, but then what next? Men are kind of like, someone tell me which direction. I was like, I don't know, dude. I'm just winging this too. So the book then became an idea of like, okay, I'm not writing a book because I want to write a book, because that's actually very overwhelming. But I wanted to flush out of myself like the framework of how you go from a very, very wounded man, which I was, and just wreaking havoc everywhere I went in my relationships and everything else, deeply insecure, to a more whole
yes.
and healed man. Yes. So that book started me in that way, but then I had to start confronting my own demons, and I ran straight into my own shit, quite frankly. And I went down into it for 6 to 9 months. I think I just started coming out of it in January because I hired a coach. But I realized, and I think a lot of men, and this is why I'm telling the story, feel similarly, was because then, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I started missing companionship and connecting with people, and all of the other things that I used to distract myself from my own insecurities and everything else came to the surface. Yeah. So I then got, and I realized I had a lot of anger. Yeah. And I just kept shoving it down, because I again, not only were we taught to not like necessarily show a lot of emotion, but I also know that if I were to really let that rage out, women and children, if they saw how fucking angry I am, not at them, but just in general, they probably wouldn't feel safe. Yeah. So I don't think men feel safe to get their anger out, because when I did a poll online with in my email list, like, what are the top 3 emotions men feel regularly? Yeah. It was anger, frustration, and loneliness. Oh man. Right? So no wonder, if we're not healing ourselves, no wonder this anger and this pain is boiling into, mass shootings. Yeah. Flying planes into buildings. Bad decisions. Blowing things up. Horrible. That is the shadow masculine. That's what's perpetrated the whole Me Too movement.
Okay, so let's talk about, because I've never heard that phrase before, and it's really interesting. Shadow masculine. Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think that's the shadow being all the things that we don't want that's in the shadow. We don't want to put any light.
Yeah.
And that's all the stuff guys are hiding. Their porn addictions, their gambling addictions, their affairs, their abuses, their all the things that we are deeply ashamed of. Yes. Right? And even though I haven't done, not to even judge on a scale, but a lot of stuff that I've not done that I know other men have. Yeah. The shame, though, that I've felt is still probably very similar to the shame that they felt.
Yeah, exactly right.
Just like the pain that I feel about one thing is very similar to the pain that someone else feels.
Exactly right.
But even though the genesis of where those come from are probably vastly different. Yeah. And so that's where I started connecting with other men and realizing I needed to get a healthy way, coming back to your answering your question, a healthy way of getting anger out. Yeah. Otherwise, what my coach was telling me was like, I repress it, I keep it in, and it takes so much energy to keep that stuff down that it's exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
And so then, no wonder I feel numb.
Yes.
Because I was at a Dr. Joe Dispenza down in Cancun in like November, right? The first, I was rolling the dice with COVID. But I was like, I need this. And I went through a week-long meditation experience and felt nothing. I was completely numb.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I've been doing this cycle for years.
Yeah.
And then I get angry, and then I let it out, and then I feel like, oh, I'm alive again. Or I meet someone, special, and I'm alive again. Or I get excited about a new project, I'm alive again, and then I go numb. Oh. It's just this cycle, and I feel like there's a lot of men who have been going through that with COVID, but just in general, right? COVID just gave kind of the perfect storm to let that stuff come to the surface.
Everything bubbled up.
Yeah, and then no wonder male suicides begin to spike.
Absolutely, yeah. So one thing because this is such an interesting topic for a lot of people who don't understand, but you had mentioned the idea of a grown man like yourself hiring a coach. Now, a lot of people, because, we both do coaching in our own right. I have a coach, you have a coach. It's normal for us, but it's such a foreign concept for so many people. Explain to me, because there's a lot of people who say, okay, here's the benefit of coaching, feature, blah, 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 blah. Why did you feel the need to get your own coach? I think that would be so powerful, because you being a coach in your own right, but you recognizing how powerful that shift can be. Take me through your thought process on the idea of a coach, a human coach to help you with life.
Probably goes back to me having been an athlete.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the concept of having a coach and a coach guide me has been helpful. There's also probably there's a part of it too where that I can feel that kind of natural masculine desire to want to prove something to myself, which is why I want to do it on my own. Yeah. That I'm counteracting it, be like, no, that it's either time or money. Yeah. I will forfeit money any day to speed up the process of learning and healing faster than trying to learn through the school of hard knocks and trial and error, right? So that all made sense to me, but it wasn't until 2009 when I went to my first Tony Robbins event and subsequently bought into his university mastery program or whatever, and was assigned a coach for 3 months. And that was my first experience of a life coach. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, like this is pretty freaking powerful. Yeah. And I had not done counseling. And again, it might be just different, terms or designations, therapist, counselor, coach. But what I at least like about, in my mind at least, when it comes to coaching, is like, coaches are paid to get results. Yeah. Right? Yeah. If you're like professional football or baseball, whatever, if your team's not doing well, they don't keep the coach. They don't you gotta get results. They don't kick the franchise player off the team. No. They actually get rid of the coach.
One of my distinctions that I say is, a counselor or a therapist is meant to console you, and a coach is meant to equip you. And I think a lot of people think when they're going to get a life coach, for instance, they think that they're signing up for therapy. But that's not what's happening. We're here to equip people to go dare I say, the final percent for themselves and take their life to the next level. And I think it's important for people to hear that a coach has a coach, because people forget that, they start thinking they're at the top of the mountain. No, I don't need any help. That's that masculine pride coming out that stunts our growth.
Well, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods,
they have coaches.
They all have coaches. Yeah. Michael Jordan, they all had some of the best coaches.
Some of the best
coaches.
So
I kind of look at it as, I just don't know what I don't know.
Exactly.
And so a coach really can see my blind spots, because I'm just so used to the stories that I make in my head and my own limiting beliefs that I have to have someone who's unemotionally attached to my stories be like, that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Or why do you believe that? And it's just, I feel like the better the coaches that I've had, they've asked the better questions. So they're not really giving me advice as they are just asking the right questions. And that to me works. But again, like I said, to each their own. Some people might like coaching. Some people might like counseling or therapy. But I think that's why it's important to me to just keep leveling up.
Yeah, I think coaching is incredibly important, and the only thing that I can say about it is I wish I would have believed in it and started it sooner.
Me too.
Sooner.
Yeah, ditto that.
So one of the things that the Meeting of Men, Johnny King as a impactor is doing, he's going to be one of our sponsors for the upcoming event, and he's going to come talk and share the importance of equipping men, which I think is incredibly cool. And I number one, I thank you for believing in what I'm doing enough to where we can kind of lock arms.
Absolutely, yeah.
We actually had a really interesting conversation, because I was having to talk to a prospective client of mine at the same time of the Meeting of Men. Finally got a hold of him, pushed it back, and then got to speak with such amazing people, connect with such amazing people. And one of the things that I was talking about was there was just something inside of me, even though yes, I'm not speaking at this Meeting of Men, but I got to show up for my brother. You're doing something that's incredibly powerful and I think incredibly needed. And when I was able to, I knew I had to show up for you. And we talked, all right, phone down. We talked about the idea that men, for whatever reason, because we live on the island, we don't show up for one another.
Yeah.
And because I think, this is the start of something very special, the beginning of a beautiful friendship, if you will. I grabbed Salo. I said, grab a camera. We got to go support Johnny.
I appreciate it.
And I think that showing up for your fellow men, I think, is important. Being there in the storms.
Yeah, I think it's more than important. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of, I've done a lot of personal development, but I've just started getting into some actual men-only men's work.
Yeah.
There's power to that than that I did not even see coming.
Exactly.
Really, really powerful. And so I feel like, again, it's just we as men are up against our egos.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I have, again, what I love about the work that I do is because selfishly it just keeps pushing me to grow.
Yeah.
So to have you or Sterling or so many different guys either on my podcasts or on my Meeting of Men, because I'm a coach, initially I feel I'm better about this now than I was even maybe a year ago. Yeah. There's that twinge of like, oh, but what if they get some clients that I want, know? And I'm like, I have to surrender to like, okay, what is my actual ultimate outcome here?
Exactly.
Support men in their healing.
Yes.
So the more I just actually finally surrendered to be like, you know what? If this is actually going to take off, it's going to take off because I'm going to move myself out of the way. And this is about giving men as much value and equip them with as many tools as they can from who knows what.
Exactly.
And I believe that God is... God is all, and so ultimately God is love, and the most loving thing that I can do is to step back and let men hear from so many different messages, perspectives, and that to me has allowed me. But I only say it because I feel like men's egos will be like, oh, I don't want to go to a freaking men's meeting, or I don't want to coach, I don't want to go to a conference, I don't want to jump in the car and drive an hour and a half to go. Like, is it like I would just want to stay home? And
Well, I can tell you every single time my life has changed, it's because I decided to show up and take action. And that's the big thing. I could have taken the easy way out, and you would have supported me in that. But dude, yeah, for sure. It's in the middle of rush hour. I'm an hour and a half. Dude, I can't do this.
Yeah.
No, I could have. I just didn't. Yeah. No, I need to show up for my guy, and I think that's important. One of the distinctions I love making about the word ego is I think it stands for edging God out. And it means that you think you're so good that you don't need his help, and you're so big, and you do get big with an ego, for better and worse, but you get so big that you don't leave any room for miracles to happen in your life. And I think it's important to recognize that our ego is vastly different than arrogance, and is vastly different than confidence. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing that I think men need, is pure confidence in themselves and freedom. And I've been really attacking this word lately and talking to people, because everyone focuses on financial freedom. But what about freedom of expression?
Right.
Well, people say that we live in the land of the free and this, that, and the other, but men almost never say what they actually think, because we're scared and we don't know. We're scared. Freedom of expression, asking for directions, geographical freedom. We're scared to move. We're scared to take action. We think we're going to get judged. We think we're this. And I love, it got made, it's a really old saying, but it got made famous by Jay Shetty, again in his book, How to Think Like a Monk. But he says, I am not what you think I am. I'm not what I think I am. I am what I think you think I am. And basically what that means is we're all trying to be someone who we think someone else thinks we are. Yeah. And we're almost always wrong. And men and women for sure, but just in different ways, we are so subjected to that. And completely. I think having these structures can really help people.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the hard part too. With it's a double-edged sword to social media and our iPhones, everything else is just that comparison syndrome.
Oh yeah.
So I agree, and I think that's the greatest gift that I got from like everything hitting the fan when I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I was kind of humiliated by my divorce. But once I finally gave myself the grace to forgive myself and again say, I was just doing the best I could.
Yeah.
There was love 100% there. And that was my intention. It was never my intention to hurt. That I forgave myself, and then it allowed me to no longer have to put on this facade of trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
with that, then has allowed me to write a book that I don't necessarily.
What's the title of the book? Do we have a title yet?
Yeah, it's super unique. It's called Becoming Kings.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, I've heard that before. It's called Becoming Kings.
Yeah.
Is there something else called Becoming Kings?
There's a book called Becoming a King.
No, I'm talking about the amazing podcast.
There's the whole idea around kings and queens and castles. Yeah, so I think it's
No, I'm talking the Becoming Kings podcast. I'm telling you guys,
one and the same.
He has some incredible experts that come on. And when I say experts, I'm not saying expert in something that they do. He has experts in who they are. And that's what differentiates Johnny when he brings someone on. It's not an expert at the doing part of life. It's an expert at the being part of life. And that's what I really enjoy about his podcast. I've subscribed. I think it's great. And then tell them all the ways that we can get in touch with Johnny King.
If you want to send me a fax, you can send it to... No.
1-800-BECOMING KINGS.
You can beep me on my beeper.
No, he's got a pager strapped to his... He also has a fanny pack. It's great.
It's awesome with my cassette player in it.
There you go. There you go.
I work out in spandex. So, no, truthfully, if you go to johnnyking.com,
there we go.
You can find all the good info there. Let's just keep it simple.
Awesome. johnnyking.com, Becoming Kings podcast, and themeetingofmen.com.
You got it.
So I'm telling you, if you're a man and you want to, it's not, I wouldn't say a support group. It's very much a structure of exchange for just men wanting to better themselves and be in a cool environment.
Yeah, and it's not, I think that the idea is that some guys have that fear they're going to show up and it's going to be a very kind of like wussy kind of like soft,
Yeah.
kumbaya, teary kind of meeting. And even though emotions do come up,
Yeah.
it's just guys being guys.
It's guys being guys, and it's very open and accepting, inclusive. So at least try it out once, and if it's not your cup of tea, cool, go team. We don't mind, but at least show up, have the conversation, and see if you make that connection. So anyway, from me to you, Johnny, I appreciate coming to Truck Studios in is that Pinocchio? Pincho?
Pacino.
It's Pacino Pizza. There we go. Pacino Pizza.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you hanging out. I really appreciate you doing all the work that you do in personal growth and helping people out. So this is the first of many.
It is. Thank you for your support. Thanks for letting me be honest. An honor for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy.
The final percent.